Okay, so here's the thing. What we're doing is we're going from 5.1 to 5.2 to 5.4. That's because step functions are not really going to get in our way for going on through Algebra 1. And we're trying to get stuff compressed a little bit. Now, in addition to that, in 5.4, we're going to example 2 to get started on this, but we're not going to take a lot of time with it. So we're going to be on page 204 in your textbook. Now, on page 204 in your textbook, example 2 simply says we're going to compare two models. One model is going to be h sub x, it's y to u, equals the absolute value of x, and it's going to be the absolute value of x minus 4. Right? And then we're going to compare that to g sub x, which is y for a different model, and that's going to be the absolute value plus 2. And again, we're trying to go through this quickly because transformation shouldn't be that difficult. Not at this level, it shouldn't be that difficult. So, let me give us a quick model of coordinate plane, and I want to make sure I have enough of it. So, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this -4 and this +2. You'll notice I've got a little bit more on the bottom than I have on the top. All right, now, so we already know that these absolute values of x are supposed to look like this. We already know they're all supposed to look like this, right? Essentially, and it's not horrible for us to know that this is the y-intercept. Now think about that. Make sure that you've got that. Because what that says to you is that the y-intercept for this formula is -4. So it's going to be right down here. Not really challenging to figure that out. Once you've been told, you should know that forever. Alright, now, having said that, I know that this shape, and it's a little messy, you know, we're exhibiting time, and by the way, you need to be using straight edges. I would be using them here, but like I say, I'm fighting against time for your benefit, not for my benefit. My benefit makes this really irritating to look at. So right there I have, h sub x equals the absolute value of x minus 4. Now, if you figure that out and said, oh yeah, I got that, super Mr. Kolesnick, then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to make the comparison to that to g sub x. G sub x, starting out the same way, starts at +2. Same model again. All we did was take the line, move it up or move it down. In this case, we moved it up from here to here. This one is more positive than this one, but it is the same shape since these get to go on forever. So here is g sub x equals x plus 2. Don't forget, you have to label these things. So that takes care of example 2. Now, quick erasure here. So as we know, the more time I take doing what I'm doing here, the less transformations we're going to get in 9 minutes. Anyway, we're going to use different models now. We're going to move on to example 3. Example 3 says we're going to take this model and we're going to compare now. Get the pen in my hand. Now we're going to compare g sub x. Different model, guys. Different model. G sub x. And minus 4 is going to be, well, sorry, I got ahead of myself. That's what Currian does. G sub x equals x minus 4. Now that's changed that model quite a bit. But still we're talking about the model of the absolute value of x. We're just going to move it a little bit. Now, mathematically, you can do this with g sub x and x. Right? And if I said g sub x, and this is backwards, so let me erase that. We erase that. I can figure that we would have x on one side of our table and g sub x on the other. So if I were going to use 1, 0, and negative 1, just the model here, I now know I'm looking for the absolute value of this model when I put 1 where x is. So 1 minus 4 has to be minus 3, right? The absolute value of minus 3, by the way, you should be able to think this through in your head, is equal to 3. Here, it's x minus 4, so it's negative 4. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Negative 1 minus, and you can see there's a trend going on here. Negative 1 is negative 5. So our model looks like this. At negative 1, that's our first point. At 0, this is our second point, negative 4. At 1, it's negative 3. Now the thing to recognize here is that we're going to discover, and I definitely want to stick with a straight line here. We're going to discover that that's going to take me to this point here, right? What happens when I get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What happens when I get to 6? Well, 6 minus 4, right? Do you see it? Sorry, I've done this a little squirrely apparently. But the idea here is that we're going to have to take this shape and go in this direction because it is. And actually, where we should have gotten that was at 4 minus 4 equals 0. So that actually been moved over to here. All right. Now, having said that, if I'm going to compare that with g sub x, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm hurrying. If I'm going to compare that with f sub x equals x, well, f sub x equals x, looks like this, right? So we just moved everything from one place to the other based on this. The thing to remember here is that it's going to move 4 that way. when it's negative. So if it were positive 4, it would move the other way. Okay? Now, that should take you through pretty much the other translations, but look at example 4. Example 4 is going to give you a model we're going to get used to knowing. So I'm going to give you a second video to take us to number 4. So we'll have A1 5.4, example 2 and 3, and then we're going to do 4 on a different video. Okay, thanks guys.